Have you ever walked into a pup space and felt like everyone was speaking an entirely different language? Hey my Pups and Pals, Echo here with another episode of Pup 101. In my last video, we went over two key terms that are essential to understanding the pup community, pup and pup play. Those are going to be our foundation as we continue through this series. So, now that we have that foundation, it is time to start learning the language that comes with it. This video is going to be pretty dense with terminology, ranging from the personal experience of a pup to how pups may operate within a pack, and finally how pups interact with the broader community. I know there are going to be a lot of terms, but learning them will make it much easier to understand conversations, events, and other pups as you become more familiar with the community. Before we get into the deep dive, I want to give you an idea of what we will be covering. We're going to be talking about terms surrounding the pup headspace and relationships, common gear, terminology, pack roles, and finally some of the words you will hear when talking to the wider pup community or attending social events. One quick disclaimer before we hop into all these terms though. The exact meaning of some terminology can vary between individual pups, packs, regions, and communities. So as you start meeting other pups or joining different spaces, never be afraid to ask what a particular term means to them. With all of that out of the way, let's start with a term you may have already heard me use in episode 1, handler. A handler, sometimes also referred to as a trainer, is generally someone who takes on a guiding, caretaking, or more dominant role within the pup dynamics. Depending on the people involved, a handler may help guide a pup through play, establish structure, provide encouragement, help with training or commands, or simply act as someone the pup trusts and interacts with while they're in the pup space. I do want to point out though, that not every pup has a handler or trainer. Having one is absolutely not a requirement, and not having one does not prevent you from experiencing pup play or being a part of the pup community. A handler is simply another possible layer of the experience. These pups may be referred to as strays. Something else you will hear pups talk about quite often is their headspace. For the purpose of this series, I'll usually refer to this term commonly used within the community as pup space. A person's pup space is the mental or emotional state that allows them to settle into their pup persona and engage more naturally with the canine-inspired behaviors, emotions, or play. There are many different ways someone can enter the pup space. For one person, it may be as easy as putting on the pup hood or muzzle. For someone else, it may involve getting down on all fours, playing with toys, interacting with another pup, responding to a handler, or simply allowing themselves to stop thinking about the responsibilities of everyday life for a while. How someone gets into pup space can vary widely, and there is no right way to do it. It is something that you generally have to experience for yourself in order to discover what helps you reach that mind space. For many pups, pup space can become sort of a safe or comforting mental headspace. Like we mentioned earlier, it can give someone an opportunity to temporarily step away from everyday stress, responsibilities, and everything else going on in the world. To help you understand better, let's imagine that you are playing an amazing game. You are completely locked in, focused on what you are doing, and for that moment, everything happening outside of that experience just disappears. For some, this is how some pups feel in their headspace. It can help create a relaxed or zen-like state for the pup in it, and allows such things as their everyday adult life temporarily disappear. Now that you better understand what pup space is, let's move into something that can sometimes help people get there. Gear. I plan on making an entire video dedicated specifically to pup gear, so I'm not going to dive too heavily into everything at the moment. However, there are a few important pieces of gear that I want to define before we move on. The first is the pup hood. The pup hood is probably one of the most recognizable pieces of pup gear, and is often what makes pup play immediately identifiable to people both inside and outside of the community. Something you may notice is that people who are unfamiliar with pup play will sometimes refer to a pup hood as a mask. While that word may make sense from the outside perspective, Within the pup community, the term hood is generally preferred because the piece typically covers most or all of the head rather than simply sitting across the face. It is worth noting, however, that masks do exist. They are just typically made out of a material like the leather or faux leather. Think Halloween mask, where they only cover the front of your face rather than your head. Another important piece of gear is the muzzle. The muzzle is the portion of the hood that creates the canine-style snout. Some people's hoods have a muzzle incorporated directly into the design, while other muzzles can exist as a separate piece of gear. Because of that, you may see pups wearing a muzzle without wearing a full hood at all. And I want to emphasize something here. You do not need a hood, a muzzle, or any other piece of gear to be a pup or to participate in the community. Gear can help someone express their pup persona or get into pup space, but it is not what makes someone a pup. All you really need is the interest, curiosity, or desire to explore what pup play means to you. And if you're watching this video, you're already taking that first step. Other pieces of gear you may commonly see include collars, leashes, paws or gloves, ears, tails, and plenty of other accessories that a pup may choose to wear. Again, we'll go into all of those much more deeply in a future video. Alright, that was quite a few definitions, so let's take a second and recap what we have covered so far. A handler or trainer is someone who may guide, care for, or interact with a pup as a part of the dynamic. Pup space is the mental or emotional headspace someone may enter when engaging with their pup persona. A pup hood is one of the most recognizable pieces of pup gear and usually covers most or all of the head. A muzzle is the snout-shaped portion of pup gear and may either be a part of a hood or worn separately. Take a breath. And gear is the overall term for the clothing, accessories, and equipment pups may use to express themselves or help enter pup space, but none of it is required to be a pup. Now that we have covered some of the terms surrounding the individual pup experience, let's shift gears and talk about some of the broader communities that you will hear in the pup spaces. You may hear people refer to a particular group of pups as a pack. A pup pack is generally a group of pups and sometimes handlers or other people who have formed a closer social bond with one another. Think of it somewhat like a close friend group. There are people who share similar interests, spend time together, support one another, and may choose to give the group their own identity. Some packs also choose to use titles or roles such as Alpha, Beta, Omega, or Delta to describe the dynamics within their group. Before I define these though, there is one important thing to clarify. You may have heard these terms explained using the idea that real wolf packs operate under a strict Alpha to Omega hierarchy. That interpretation became extremely popular in both media and popular culture, but modern research on wild wolves has largely moved away from that model. In pup space, these titles are better understood as commonly created roles and labels, rather than a literal recreation of wolf behavior. And I did put that research down in the description below. With that distinction out of the way, let's talk about how these terms may be used within the pup community. An alpha is typically associated with a more dominant, protective, or leader-oriented role. Within a pack, an alpha may be seen as a mentor, organizer, protector, or simply someone who naturally takes on more responsibility. A beta generally exists somewhere between the more dominant and alpha role and the more submissive omega role. They may act as a secondary mentor, supporter, or mediator within the group and may step into a leadership position when needed. An omega is commonly associated with a more submissive role. Depending on the person and the pack, an omega may be playful, energetic, service-oriented, or simply more comfortable following rather than leading. Those are probably the three terms you will hear the most often, but they are not the only possible roles. You may also hear the term delta. A delta, generally described as someone who does not strongly identify as either a dominant or submissive person. They may be versatile, adaptable, and comfortable, helping whenever and wherever they are needed without necessarily wanting to lead the pack or place themselves at the bottom of the hierarchy. Another role you may encounter is the service pup. A service pup is generally someone who enjoys helping, or supporting the other members of their pack community. One of the easiest ways to explain this is to think of them as the person who likes making sure everyone else is taken care of. That could mean making sure everyone has the gear they need before an outing, reminding people to stay hydrated, helping organize supplies, checking in on other pups, or even volunteering to be the designated driver while everyone else is enjoying themselves. It is also important to remember that none of these roles are mandatory. Not every pack uses them, not every pup identifies with one, and their exact meaning can change depending on the group or the person using them. Now that we have gone through some of the roles you may encounter within a pack, let's break down a few of the final major terms you will hear, this time focusing more on the social side of pup play. The first is going to be kennel. Depending on the community, using the word, a kennel can be referred to as an organized group, social community, or collection of pups and packs. It is generally broader than one individual pack and may include pups, handlers, friends, and other members of the allies of the community. Following that, you have the scene. When someone refers to the pup scene, they are generally talking about the broader pup community and the social spaces, events, organizations, and people connected to it. And finally, let's talk about two words that are closely connected to what pups actually do: play and moshes. When we talk about play, we are referring to broadly to the activities someone participates in while engaging with their pup persona. That could mean running around, wrestling with another pup, playing with dog toys, practicing commands, chasing a ball, socializing, or really anything else that helps someone enjoy and express the side of themselves. That brings us to pup moshes. A pup mosh is typically an organized social space or event where pups can come together and play. Depending on the event, this might take place on padded flooring mats or even a ball pit. The easiest way to describe it is that a mosh gives a pup a space where they can really let themselves drop into the pup space. They can play, interact with friends, meet other pups, and simply have fun in an environment specifically created for that kind of expression. And with that, congratulations! You have officially made it through what is probably going to be the longest definition sections in this entire series. Take a deep breath and absorb it in, because I know that was a lot of terminology all at once, and you absolutely do not need to memorize everything right now. Through this video and the videos that follow, we will continue coming back to these terms and dive deeper into the different parts of what makes pup and the community what it is. Before we move on, however, let's take a quick recap, because it's definitely in order. A handler or a trainer may guide, care for, or interact with a pup as a dynamic. Pup's phase is the mental, emotional state someone may enter while engaging with their pup persona. Gear includes things like pup hoods, muzzles, collars, leashes, paws, ears, tails, and other accessories, but none of the gear is required to be a pup. A pack is a close social group of pups and others who have chosen to form a community together. Terms like alpha, beta, omega, and delta may be used within some packs to describe different personalities, roles, dynamics, while a service pup is generally someone who enjoys supporting the group and helping the group as a whole. A kennel can refer to a larger or more organized pup community, while the scene refers to the more broadly to the pup community and the spaces surrounding it. Play describes the activities pups participate in while expressing their pup persona, and pup moshes is a social environment where pups can come together, play, interact, and enjoy being in pup space. And if some of these definitions still feel a little overwhelming, don't worry. By the time we work our way through the series, you are going to hear these terms enough that they will start feeling much more natural. And with that, you have officially survived what is probably going to be one of the most terminology-heavy lessons in Pup 101. We have covered a lot today, from pup handlers and pup space, to gears, packs roles, kennels, the scene, play, and pup moshes. And like I said earlier, you absolutely do not need to memorize every single one of these terms right away. The important thing is that you know and now have the basic understanding of the language you may hear while interacting with the pup community. As we continue through this series, these words are going to come up again and again, and the more you hear them, the more natural they are going to start making sense. Also remember that some of these terms can mean slightly different things depending on the individual pup, the pack, or the community using them. So if you are ever unsure about what someone means, there is absolutely nothing wrong with simply asking. And speaking of asking questions, if there is a term that I talked about today that you still have more questions about, or maybe there's a term you have heard in the pup community that I didn't cover, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you did make it to the end of this video, a couple of reminders. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with the people you think would benefit from this video. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon. Also, I do truly appreciate any comments and questions that you have. So feel free to ask away. I do want to remind you though, that some of the questions you have may be talked about in the coming episodes. Now that we understand some of the language of the pup community, the next question becomes, how do you actually start becoming a pup? And that is exactly where we are headed in episode 3. In the next lesson, we are going to talk about some of the ways you can begin exploring pup play for yourself, what getting involved in the community can look like, and one of the most important things you need to understand before interacting with other pups: consent. Because whether we are talking about head scratches, gear, photos, play, moshes, handlers, or simply interacting with another person, understanding and respecting boundaries need to be there from the very beginning. So if you are ready to take what we have learned so far and start putting some of it into practice, I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, thank you for watching, my Pups and Pals. My name is Echo, and this has been episode 2 of Pup 101. Bye-bye!